Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon, Arizona Mountain Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom! Shakalaka done. I would like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They are an international online therapy company. So they will set you up with a therapist here in the US of A. You guys will have to figure out the time difference, but they will set you up with somebody here. If you are in the US of A and you want to get a different therapist, like say, for example, you're in a small town, you don't like the therapist, but you do want to do online therapy, then go to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, fill out the questionnaire. They will set you up with a licensed professional therapist, either master's level or PhD level in your state. So thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. I've had a lot of really good feedback. It makes me very happy to be partnered with them. Thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay, let's dive into the questions, shall we? Okay, let's go to the first one. Can you do a video on building emotional safety? Yes, I can do that. So how to, emotional safety. Can you tell me specifically more what you're looking for? So I can talk about how to make yourself bulletproof to abusers for sure, and emotional safety. So I'm not quite sure what you're meaning by that. So IM me or underneath the comments, if you could explain more, that would be great. So what I can do is I can do a video on emotional safety. Maybe does that mean trusting people? Like, you know, how to trust your gut, how to learn who to trust and who not to trust, that kind of thing. Yeah, I can absolutely do a video. Give me a few weeks because there's several video suggestions I noticed in here. Question. My mom would ask me and my sister to come to the living room for weekend suicide ritual. She'd ask what items we wanted, then grade our reaction. If her hubby came home, she'd immediately recover and be perky. By definition, this sounds like BPD, but it felt more psychopathic, a little of both. She'd later give us the item as if to say, it's time, and then scan our face for the reaction. Yeah, that, BPD, but also psychopathic. Yeah, because instilling fear. Yeah, you betcha. So remember, the suicidal gestures, suicidal ideations, when they are further down on the line, okay, are used to intimidate, control, manipulate, harm, hurt. And the fact that the person was looking for your reaction, they knew what they were doing. They had no intention of killing themselves. They were just doing it to manipulate. Absolutely. So with that, that's a trauma. Don't underestimate having had a parent that constantly threatened suicide. That's traumatic to a kid. Kids don't know how to deal with that. So seriously consider getting with a really good trauma therapist to work through all of those suicidal ideations, because this sounds like this happened on a regular basis. So that would be CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because it happened over and over and over and over. And that's not fair. And that's why I get so angry at these parents that have a disorder and refuse to go get help, but just keep torturing the child, you know? So yeah, so definitely consider getting with a good trauma therapist and working through that. If you cannot afford a trauma therapist, start getting the books. CPTSD From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, The Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor, or really any of the Inner Child workbooks. There's more modern ones, but I like hers. Self-Esteem, The Self-Esteem Workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker, Boundaries. So yeah, that was a trauma that happened over and over and over again. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and you shouldn't have had to put up with it. And yes, it was a way to manipulate and control. They were looking for that narcissistic supply. So it sounds like something more than BPD was going on. So, but of course I don't know because they were not in front of me. But yeah, you definitely want to work on the trauma that caused. Like how you spoke of echo and narcissist. I became a shell of a person, codependent, caring for abusers. Now, when I need help, I am finding myself shutting down. Why is it so hard to ask for help? It is a trauma response. Not being able to ask for help is a trauma response. Is it because I experienced or saw others, me, selfishness when I got the brunt of the neglect? slash abuse. I don't want to be perceived as selfish. I don't want to be like those people or act like them. Do I do the opposite and go silent? So here's the deal. When we have become caregivers, when we are codependent like nobody's business, when we have become echo, we learn quickly that nobody's going to listen to us. Nobody's going to listen to us. They're not going to believe us when we need help. How many times did we ask for help and nobody helped us? Or flipped it around, how dare you? How dare you be so selfish to ask for help? How dare you? And so we learn quickly to not ask for help. Not asking for help is a trauma response. So what you're going to do is you're going to get with a really good trauma therapist, and you're going to start recognizing your own self-worth, and you're going to get the hell away from all of those people who are telling you you're selfish. So it is not selfish to ask for help. Now, so the polar opposite of not asking for help are the ask holes. So the ask holes are the ones that go, help me, help me, help me. You throw them a line, and 2 seconds later, help me, help me, help me. You throw them a line, 2 seconds later, help me, help me. Those are abusers. Okay. But asking for help and then doing something about it, that's healthy. Okay. It's okay to ask for help. It is. Absolutely. That's not selfish, but an abuser will tell you it's selfish. An abuser will tell you, how dare you? How dare you ask for help? How dare you want me to go out of my way? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? So what you're going to do is you're going to get with a good trauma therapist, and you're going to start working on self-esteem. Self-esteem workbook, Glenn Schiraldi, specifically the one where the section where he talks about what is your value? What is your worth? Are you worth your own love, your own time, and your own attention? Yes, you are. And asking for help is a trauma response. CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Get it, read it, work it. Get with a good trauma therapist. You need to realize it's okay to ask for help. It is. And it's okay to work on yourself, and it's okay to do nice things for yourself, but abusers will tell you it's not. And like I said, the flip side of that is the narcissistic abusers who constantly ask for help but never do anything to better themselves or change or whatever. That's not you. So a trauma response is when we are terrified of asking for help because we're afraid we're going to be selfish. So work on the self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi, specifically the section that talks about what is your worth? What is your value? What is, you have worth and value, and your worth and value, you above all others, are worthy of your own love, your own time, and your own attention. And it's okay to ask for help. Not asking for help is a trauma response. Get with a good trauma therapist. Work on self-esteem. Work on boundaries. You don't have to be echo anymore. You don't. Okay, let's see. My dryer just went off. Do you think fetal alcohol syndrome can play a part in these personalities, or is that something to consider? No. Fetal alcohol syndrome is something completely different. Hold on. Alcohol syndrome. There we go. All right. Fetal alcohol syndrome. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, FASDs, are a group of conditions that can occur in a person whose mother drank alcohol during the pregnancy. These effects can include physical problems, difficulty with behavior and learning, or a mixture of all three. Signs of FASDs can be physical or intellectual. That means that they can affect the mind or the body or both, because FASDs make up a group of disorders. People with FASDs can show a wide range and mix of signs. Physical signs of FASDs can include abnormal facial features such as narrow eye openings and smooth philtrum, the ridge between the upper lip and nose, small head size, short stature, low body weight. In rare cases, there are problems with the heart, kidney, bones, or hearing. Intellectual and behavioral signs of FASDs might include problems with memory, judgment, or impulse control, motor skills, academics, especially math, paying attention, and low IQ. Specific learning disabilities are also possible. So there are behavioral issues connected to fetal alcohol syndrome, but it's not generally going to be a personality disorder. It is a organic brain issue, whereas personality disorders are not an organic brain issue. So there is that. I hope that answered the question. If there are personality issues going on and there is fetal alcohol syndrome going on, that person needs to get with a specialist so to help them navigate. And if that person is abusing you, then you stay the heck away from them. And if they're using the fetal alcohol syndrome as an excuse, absolutely not. Okay. Question. I found Grey Rock works great for those with narcissistic traits, but it doesn't work as well with BPD folks. When you can't go no contact, how can you distance yourself from somebody with BPD? So you want to get the book Stop Walking on Eggshells by Randy Krieger, okay? And basically you're gray rocking, but it's a series of de-escalations so that you're not playing into their psychotic thinking and you're not playing the game, basically. So Stop Walking on Eggshells, both the book and the workbook by Randy Krieger. That is specific to borderline personality disorder. So get that book and start doing it. Grey Rock basically works. It does. What's going to happen, though, is you've got to understand somebody with malignant borderline personality disorder. I'm not talking traits of, I'm talking witch and queen, that wants to rage, that enjoys inflicting pain, enjoys the drama, enjoys the trauma. They're going to look for any excuse they can to rage, even gray rocking. You gray rock them and they come unglued. So basically, when I was going through college, and I talk about this in the book that's coming out, hopefully in February, this month, I talk about a classmate that was absolutely borderline personality disordered. And she would do the whole, why don't you like me? Why aren't you paying attention to me? Why aren't you looking at me? Why are you, blah, 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 blah. And I just ignored her because I was like, lady, I don't got time for your crazy. Thank you. I'm trying to get my degree here. Go away. And one day she cornered me in the bathroom. Why don't you like me? Why don't you? And I looked at her, gray rock, no emotion. Hun, I don't think of you. I don't hate you. I don't like you. Get out of my way. I need to go out. Because she was blocking the door. She was trying to do the intimidation thing. And I just blew past her. And of course, she started wailing and expected me to come back in and comfort her. And I'm like, no, I'm not playing the game. Do they continue to escalate when you gray rock them? Sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they can. You don't play the game. You never get emotional with them. Ever. That is cocaña for them. It is. It is their narcissistic supply. So you don't get emotional with them. You do gray rock them. You just don't buy into their BS. And sometimes they'll explode like that one did. But, other times they'll do the suicidal ideation or gestures or whatever. You call crisis. You don't put up with it. We do not negotiate with terrorists. The intent of the raging and the suicidal gestures, suicidal ideations is to terrorize, to harm, to inflict pain, to manipulate, and to control. Don't play. If they start doing that, you call crisis or you call 911 and ask for a welfare check on them. So you do not put up with that stuff. You absolutely do not put up with that stuff. Gray rocking is the best way to do it. So get Stop Walking on Eggshells by Randy Krieger. That's going to be the book that's going to help you the most in dealing with the malignant type. So it's both the book and the workbook. Randy Krieger, Stop Walking on Eggshells. I hope that answered the question. Okay, let's see. Can you do another show on Munchausen by proxy? Yes, I can. And I've got it written down here. So the show suggestions I've got are how to build emotional safety. I kind of need more information on what you're looking for in that. Leaving toxic friendships. That's another one. And Munchausen by proxy. So I will get to all of those. I'm writing them down as they come in. So yeah, I will get to those. I promise. Okay. Okay, this one, let's see. How do you handle an in-law that uses their sickness to guilt and shame you into seeing them? My brother-in-law has cancer and is verbally abusive. He states quite frequently that he is dying. Well, here's the deal. I have seen a lot of in-laws claim that they are dying for decades. Okay? So you can't necessarily believe everything they're saying. And here's the other thing. If you were not related to this person through marriage, would you have anything to do with them? If the answer is no, act accordingly. You do not have to put up with anybody, dying or not. And Anyone who uses fear, obligation, or guilt is the sign of a toxic person because they're manipulating. They're using the fear, the shame, the guilt, the whatever. Oh, I'm dying. I've got the vapors here. Oh my God, I'm dying. You need to come see me because I'm dying. Please. Really? No, you don't. So if this person is somebody you would not have anything to do with if you were not related to them, don't. You are under no obligation to go spend time with them. If your spouse wants to go spend time with them, let them. But if they're verbally abusive to you and you're clear that they're showing you who they are and they've been dying for decades, no, stop. You don't need to be manipulated. So basically you ask yourself, if you were not related to this person, would you have anything to do with them? If the answer is no, act accordingly. Secondly, are they using fear? Are they using obligation? And are they using guilt? I would say yes. And in that case, no, you do not play their game. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Absolutely not. Hope that answered the question. Okay. How do we process the information, the good, the bad, the scary? I'm making a comic book about a narcissistic person. I paint every experience and it's helping. Are there more ways? Well, writing, journaling, painting, singing, anything creative, exercising, punching bag. Those are all great ways to process. And it just depends on how you process best. So little kids are very physical. And actually, I think human beings are physical. And sometimes it helps to get to the softer emotions if you get the anger out of the way first. So that's why I suggest writing and burning an angry letter. And then usually what you find under the anger is the sadness, the betrayal, the hurt, the harm. Because anger is not a pure emotion. All the other emotions are pure. Love is love, lust is lust, happy is happy, sad is sad. Anger is the bodyguard of the softer emotions. And usually when we get the anger out of the way, we find that it's being driven by hurt. So that's one way to do it, is you can punch a punching bag. Talk it out while you're punching the punching bag. We get physical with it. Punch a punching bag. And or you can write and burn angry letters. Write songs, sing songs, find songs that express what you're thinking and feeling. Those are all great ways to process it. So yeah, so do what works. That's, because sometimes what I find is if I am in a mood and I'm sad or I'm angry, I'll find the song that expresses what I'm feeling and I'll just sing along with it and it helps. So, or, you draw, you paint, you write, you do whatever. So yeah, whatever works. That's how you process it. Some people are more writers. Like I like to write things out. Other people are more physical. Some people like to get on the punching bag and punch it out. Other people are more creative. So they like to paint. They like to sing. They like to, I like to do that too. So, whatever works, whatever works. There is no wrong answers as far as that is concerned. How am I doing on time? Oh, good. I've got some time here. Is it normal for male narcs to do acts of lewdness? It's usually antisocial. Now, it can be comorbid. So the more antisocial that's going on, the more they're going to push the envelope with acts of lewdness in public. Also, there is a component of narcissism there. But remember, the further down the spectrum they get, all of the personality disorders start overlapping. So yeah, it's usually antisocial because that's breaking a bunch of social norms kind of thing. And especially doing it in public there's that element of, am I going to get caught? That kind of thing. So, yeah, narcissists, more antisocial. So it's when they get down to the dark triad end of it. So the psychopath, antisocial psychopath, narcissism, and Machiavellianism. So that's when they're doing more of the antisocial stuffs, because that's a social norm. Okay, I have some more questions. How long does it take to get over abuse? That is an individual question. It takes quite a while. It does. Because think of it this way. When we leave an abusive relationship, whether it is a familial abusive relationship or a romantic abusive relationship or a boss or any of that stuff, the first year is letting go of the illusion of who you thought they were. Even with family, even with bosses, even with romantic partners. So you have to let go of the illusion of who we thought they were and deal with, no, the real them was the mask that slipped. And then you're grieving and you're realizing it wasn't you, because healthy, normal people automatically assume, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? How could this have been better? How can I fix this? Okay. There is no fixing this because it's them. So that first year is all of this, tumultuous trauma and grieving and all of that. The second year is getting yourself back up on your feet, kind of, and realizing it wasn't you. It really wasn't you. The person that you thought you loved never existed. They're dead. They're not real, And then the third year is kind of like, okay, how do I trust again? How do I trust myself? How do I recognize the signs? So I would say a good 3 years. Now, why? Why? Because in grieving, and I'm going to talk more about this next week. In grieving, there's grief, normal grief. You have a normal relationship with somebody. You like them and they die and you grieve. And then there is complicated grief. Complicated grief is when you had a complicated relationship with the person. They were an abuser. They were a parent. They were, this thing. The thing that people keep forgetting is that even when parents are abusive, the kids still love them. They do. It's because it's their parent, and it's complicated. It's a complicated relationship. And so there's this, I love them, but yet I hate them. And oh my God, I love them, but oh my God, I'm glad they're dead. And, that whole thing. So with normal bunny ears, normal grief, about a year and a day for the intense grieving, because you have to get through all of the firsts. You go through all of the first Christmas, New Year's, Easter, birthday, anniversary, Labor Day, Memorial Day. I just did those backwards. Memorial Day, Labor Day, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and the anniversary of the death. So you have to get through all of those firsts. And that's a tough year because everything is topsy-turvy. That person is gone. If you loved them, it's a really hard year because now you're having to figure out how to cope without them in your life. If they're abusive, it's still a really hard year because you're having to remind yourself they're dead. I don't have to worry about them anymore. And you're adjusting to that new normal and you're dealing with the trauma and you're dealing with the grief and you're dealing with the anger and you're dealing with the hatred you had for the abuse and you're dealing with all of this stuff. So the first year is the hardest for both healthy grief and complex grief. So for somebody who's been abused, it's going to be more than a year. It's going to be dealing with that, working on yourself, dealing with the anger, the betrayal, all of this stuff. With a healthy grief, it's getting through all the firsts. The second year is moving them to a new part in your brain kind of thing. It's like, okay, we're going to have to create new traditions, new normal, new this, new that, that kind of thing. And pretty much after the first year, the intense grieving is over. With complex grief, it can last 3 years because you're fighting that fantasy bond that you had with your abuser, if it was a romantic relationship. You're dealing with the inner child, if it was a parental abuser. You're dealing with all of these self-esteem issues, regardless of whether it was parental or romantic or a boss, that kind of thing. So complex grief can last at least 3 years minimum. If it's lasting longer than that, definitely get with a good therapist to figure out what's keeping you stuck. What are you keeping stuck in? And usually what I find is that people are stuck in the fantasy bond and they're stuck in the letting go of who they really were. Like they don't want to really fully admit that the person was as abusive as they really were. So there is that. I hope that answered that question. So how long does it take? It can take up to 3 years, and don't get me wrong. It's like every once in a while, it'll still rear its ugly head where you have intense feelings or intense memories or whatever, So you just deal with them as they come up. But in general, I would say 3 years generally to get through all of the working through the trauma, working on self-esteem, finding yourself again, letting the person go, letting go of the fantasy bond, letting go of all of that. And a healthy grief, a year and a half, around in there, And like I said, the first year is the hardest. It really is because you're having to deal with all the firsts. So, so how long does it take to get over the abuse? Well, the grieving process is about 3 years, and you want to be working on your self-esteem at the same time. So, do you get over the abuse? Yes. It does not define who you are, but it does inform who you are. So it will be a part of your life in some way, shape, or form. And it's a matter of whether you're willing to work it head on or not. So the ones who shove it under the carpet, no, I'm just going to ignore this. Toxic positivity, we're going to pretend this never happened, blah, blah, blah. Those are the ones that have the hardest time dealing with reality. Those are the ones that have the hardest time moving forward. Those are the ones that usually find themselves with another abuser. So yeah, you did 3 years for the grief and the working on yourself and coming to grace and all of that good stuff. I would say about 3 years. 3 years if you're doing the work. If you're not doing the work, you're not going to get healed. So point blank, you got to do the work. All right. Is it likely that children of narcissists become narcissists themselves? Well, they can, because kids mimic what they see. So in a family, you will see, same parents, one of them's disordered, one of the kids becomes the golden child, acts exactly like the parent, the other kid doesn't, So it's possible that the kids can become narcissistic, especially if they're around them a lot. So like in custody cases where the kids are having to go back and forth, the kids will mimic or mirror whatever's going to keep them safe. And remember, kids will side with the abuser in an effort to stay out of trouble, which is why the kids need to be in therapy if you're going to divorce one of these jackwagons. So, is it likely that children of narcissists will become narcissists themselves? They can. They can. It's not guaranteed that they will. So often what I see happening is kids do one of two things. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So they either fawn and they become like the abuser, right? Or they go, hell no, I want to be nothing like this jackass. I'm going to go do, work on myself and be the best person I can and help other kids that went through the similar thing. They become champions. Or they go crazy. Or in cases of females, they latch on to somebody, get pregnant so that they have somebody to love them. So, it depends on what their coping is, what their coping mechanisms are. And the less coping mechanisms that they have, the less chance that they're going to be undamaged, if that makes any sort of sense. So yeah, they can become narcissists, absolutely. But not always. Not always. Remember, nature, nurture. Nature is important. If they've got that empathy card, and they feel empathy and they don't like what the abuser's doing, they're not likely to turn into narcissists themselves. So, all right. What do you do if your family disowns you for going no contact with an abuser? You don't care and you keep going on your path. So any family, any flying monkey that's willing to sacrifice you in favor of an abuser, if they get mad at you because you leave the person because they were abusive and they're angry because how dare you leave this person that had a great job and this, that, and the other thing. Meanwhile, they were beating the living crap out of you. Anybody who sides with the abuser is an abuser themselves. They're a minor narcissist. So flying monkeys are one of two things. They are either just ignorant and they do not understand abuse, or they are minor narcissists themselves and they seek to aggrandize themselves by being associated with the grand narcissist. So if they've disowned you for leaving abuse, count yourself lucky. They've shown you who they are. You go create your own family. Family is not always blood. Sometimes friends are the best family you are going to have. So you go work on you. Get with a good therapist. Work on self-esteem. Deal with the abandonment. It is abandonment. Deal with the betrayal. It is betrayal. And start loving yourself 100% and count yourself lucky. Get away from them. Sounds to me like if they're siding with the abuser and they want you to get back with them and they've disowned you for leaving them, that these are not people that are on your side and in your corner. So no, just go no contact and go live your life. Get with a good trauma therapist. Okay, kids, that is all the time I have today. So next week we are going to be dealing with inheritance, grief, when the abuser dies, all of that sort of fun stuff. So we will be talking about that next week. And now I can't remember what I was going to title it. Damn it. Anyway, I'll do my little blurb on Saturday, let you know what I'm titling it. But yeah, the aftermath. That's what I was going to title it. The aftermath. So the aftermath of abuse. When the abuser dies, when the abuser leaves, what are you going to do? How are you going to feel? How to work through all of that. So we're going to deal with all of that. The inheritance stuff, when the narcissist dies, the fear of death, they're terrified of dying. Dear Lord, collapsed narcissists are the worst. All right, my loves, I will talk to you on Sunday. So have a great week. Be good to yourselves. Thank you to my sponsor, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. Drink plenty of water. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.